I imagine Felix is not a name that is easy for most tongues, although it's a very happy name, but we all called him Phil. Well, Phil was a fairly big man, and he immediately made that impression. And but he was cordial, had good sense of humor. He laughed at the right times, and he was very sympathetic. And as another person, you felt that he was interested in you and not just a number. He was cosmopolitan. He had a lot of wonderful connections. So he heard a lot of what was going on in the world, and that made an impact on how he worked at Purdue. And of course, as you know, he had enormous interest in students, which automatically makes you people-friendly in a sense if you're a good teacher. It's very difficult to be a good teacher and not be interested in the kids. I mean, he got the greatest pleasure, it seems to me, out of two things. One was, as a teacher, he was a fantastic teacher, in my opinion. I think he got probably the greatest joy out of when he saw the light go on people's faces, that they understood something that they didn't understand before. And the second thing is, whenever we hired somebody outstanding, there was a feather in our cap, and in Purdue's cap, and he was very happy about that. To me, those are two things that stand out in his whole performance. I think that the rapidity of his success was very unusual. And he was generally admired by people as being very effective, which he was. Both of us shared an important philosophical beliefs. Both of us thought that the GI Bill of Rights and the Land Grant Act, the College Act, were probably two of the most important American legislations because they helped to build our country beyond question, because it provided access to people regardless of wealth, which means that to the extent possible, we use as much of human talent as possible. As you know, he moved several times before he came to Purdue, but ended up at Wayne State as head of mathematics. And at that time, mathematics fell on hard times. And he was brought in basically to improve it. And his effectiveness was very obvious very soon, so that people on the campus, especially the administration, was very much intrigued by him, and which led to his appointment as Dean of Science at Purdue. He was interested in quality, most of all, and making education available to as many people who could benefit from it as possible. Try to get the most talented people you can get, which partly means financial, partly, quite frankly, making an effort to find them. And coming back when you asked me about other administrators, I don't think most university administrators work hard enough on getting the best and doing it carefully and doing it consistently and with a lot of energy. It takes time. And so that's one of the most important things. And that is, once you have basically good people in the university at all levels, I would say make it easy for them to do their work, which mainly, first of all, means to leave them alone and be there when they need you. An important thing is, and that's frequently missing, is to measure outcomes. You have to find out whether people actually accomplish what they think they accomplish or what they tell you they accomplished. And I think we often fall short on doing that, including myself.
He also said one of the roles is to get barriers out of the way.
That's correct. Basically, I said picking up the stones from the road, yes. That's the way to do it.
Were there any barriers he got out of the way for you?
Only, only in the sense that he, whenever my request needed defense, took my side and acted as my advocate, clearly, always. He and I had a wonderful working relationship, but it was also very simple. He didn't basically macromanage and let me do what I needed to do, and I did it the right way as far as he was concerned, so he was happy with it and didn't have to modify it. He had a wonderful nose for talent and had good nose for future events in various fields. For example, you mentioned Purdue making an investment in life sciences, which was perfectly obvious to me that life sciences were going to be terribly important as they have been. And it's, in 2013, they're still the leading prospective field. So I tried to integrate these fields and had probably one of the first truly integrated life science departments in the country, not just microbiology. To the extent that we emphasized processes and what makes living things alive. So, for example, bacterial viruses called bacteriophages were used very early to give the basic data on genetics as we now understand it, including the discovery of DNA and its structure and so on. Well, what do bacteriophages, little viruses and bacteria, have to do with the real world, you see? And people wondered, why would you spend your time working on this when it obviously doesn't have any practical use? But without that, we wouldn't have DNA today. We wouldn't know much about the true basis of genetics. So I tried to develop a department that asked questions about the living state, and that meant that the barriers between departmental boundaries of zoology, botany, microbiology had to disappear. So I was the first one probably to have an outstanding group that was integrated. As you always have when you have change, basically a conflict because people were trained differently. For example, many people in my department did not have PhDs in biology, they had it in physics and mathematics and other fields. But that's the way it evolved. He mentored without meaning to, simply by example. I tried to administer the same way, and basically delegating, giving people purposes to fulfill, and then examining them as they've accomplished them or not, as the case may be, and judge them accordingly. And in between, don't bother them and keep them from their work. So this has been pretty much my attitude and his. And I was, of course, admired him for his accomplishments, and I was very happy that he was successful. And of course, when he was chosen as provost, I couldn't have applauded more because we needed him very badly at the time. He had a wonderful nose for talent and had good nose for future events in various fields. I think he was a fabulous teacher and a very effective academic leader, one of the finest I have ever known. It was a pleasure to work with him and a privilege. And he was clearly involved in making Purdue the university it is today and set the stage for better things to come.